Go.
Good afternoon. Hi there. How are you? My name is Pat Campbell, radio talk show host from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you're watching Red Pill 101. This is episode 27, the 9 Iron Rules of Tomassi. We talk about them all the time, but we haven't dedicated a Red Pill 101 to the Iron Rules. We're going to do that today. Also, we have a story on how marrying full-figure women can make you happier. And we're joined, of course, by the godfather of the manosphere, the rational male, Rollo Tomassi. Rollo, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I will try not to screw up the video this time and leave it on me the whole time.
Well,
I did that last week, and I didn't realize I had done that, because what happens is whenever I try to go and do a screen cap, or I go and I click on a window, it sticks to that window, and I forget to do it when I come back. So we'll see if I could be a videographer.
Split screen?
I don't do it that way. I just look at it on the bottom here.
That gets confusing. If you've ever watched like TV, like football, picture in picture, it's distracting. It's hard to do.
Yep.
All right. So can we bring this article up online?
Yeah. Let me throw this up there. I put it in the chat. You know what? I'll just throw it up one more time real quick.
Okay. So this is from a website called trendings.net. When I first read this, I thought it was like a parody site, like The Onion. But apparently this is legit.
No.
So it says science reveals that men who marry plus size women are way happier. Okay. So if you're a guy hearing this for the first time, let me tell you something. The only person that's happier in that relationship is going to be the plus sized women. This is more and more of what we call the attempt at social reengineering. They're trying to get you to override your natural instincts and be attracted to heavyset women. And I'm not talking just a little extra on the balls. We're talking like Tess Holliday big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and we've seen more and more of this. And if you dare criticize a woman because of her weight, it's considered fat shaming, and they'll shame you. So let me just run through some of this, and you bring it up on the screen here. We'll comment as we go along.
Right.
Over the years, plus size women have been less anticipated in relationships. That's one way of looking at it. Many men often look for a slim, sexy, skinny woman to marry, while leaving out the plus size women. Well, you men are missing out on something amazing, and you don't even know it. It says the effects of media judgment views tend to put plus size women in a negative spotlight, spreading beliefs and notions that they're very lazy. However, research conducted by scientists reveals that men married to more chubby women are much more full of happiness compared to those who are married to a skinny woman. To all of that, I say bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
And there goes our monetization.
Well, hold on. Here's the proof, okay? So no guy wants to walk down the aisle with the plus size woman. They all want to have like the hottest ticket in town. They want everybody to envy them. Look at him, look at her. Why is it that women will starve themselves before a wedding to get the smallest, best size they could ever get? Nobody aspires to be overweight at their wedding, right?
Right. Exactly. Well, and think about it this way though. When women, a wedding for a woman is really the most important part of the whole thing, because it's all about her, first of all. And then, particularly in this day and age, it's all about the woman, and it's all about the marriage. And how do I know that? Well, ladies, you are the only ones who actually marry yourselves if a dude won't marry you. Or a dog, or a dolphin, or a bridge. And literally, I hope I'm not overmodulating. Literally, I've seen stories of women who are marrying like landmarks and stuff like that. And yes, most of them are either like really whacked in the head, or they're terribly overweight. But they want that. They want that day. They want that special day. And think about it this way too. And I'm just harping on this for a minute here, because women like special occasions that showcase themselves. And I don't want to like sort of sell my daughter out here, but my daughter is a pageant queen or pageant winner, right? So she is, and I'm not going to tell you what, where, or when, but I've been intimately connected with the pageant world for a very long time. You want to know another source of all my infinite knowledge about the women's nature comes from being involved in that for as long as I have.
Right.
But they want that special occasion. They want to walk down the aisle. They want to be on stage where everybody's just clap, oh, good girl, good
Right.
girl, that kind of stuff. And for most women, the only time that that's ever going to happen where all eyes are on her is at the wedding.
Right.
And so they go into, how are we going to make a wedding? How are we going to, and I'm not saying all chicks are like this, but like, let's just say 98% of women are like this. And it's their special day, right? I mean, that's, they're, the joke is, of course, women don't want to get married. They just want a wedding. And well, it's true. And so they would like that. So when they get to that point, they understand that there's going to be a lot of pictures taken, and that they want to be in the best shape of their life. They want that to be the most memorable event in their lives, technically, because it's important to them. That's they want to. It's remember, we talk about the how attention is the coin of the realm in girl world. Well, this is the bank. This is where it all comes. Yeah, this is where it all comes down. And and they want to be as thin as they possibly can. They want to look as good as they possibly can. Even the chicks who are like grossly or morbidly obese still want to drop 10 pounds, even though they need to drop like 60. They still want to drop a little bit and go, oh, I was so cute and beautiful back then.
By the way, by the same token, I think you can overdo it. I mean, some of these, especially the model types, that weigh, they're like 5'8", they weigh 112 pounds. To me, I see somebody like that. But for example, the first time I met Ann Coulter, the columnist Ann Coulter.
Yeah, I know.
They say TV adds 10 pounds. She looks so skinny. I wanted to feed her. Let me buy you a sandwich. I don't want to see the thigh gap. I don't want to see somebody's bones in their shoulders, that kind of stuff. So there has to be some sort of a healthy balance in between.
It's funny how like there's Ann Coulter. She's been around for quite some time.
Yes. You said Dave Bill Mark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't get me started. Do not get me started on Bill Maher. But it's funny because like it seems to me like in conservative circles there always has to be one little hot blonde, and I think that like Tommy Lahren is like heir apparent to Ann Coulter right now. But that, I don't know, that is what it is.
To give you an idea of how ridiculous this is.
Okay. Well, let's just go through some of these. I'm not going to.
I do.
I don't want to read. Do you want to read the whole thing?
No. Let me change the headline. The headline. Imagine if we said that women who marry guys with dad bods are way happier. What do you think the reaction would be out there among women?
Oh, they would lose their minds. It would be, well, it wouldn't be, nah, they wouldn't lose their minds. It'd be that snarky, smirky, yeah, guys, sure. It would be that kind of, wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge. That's what it would be. And it's just.
I think, in fact, I put a story up on Twitter maybe 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this issue. There are guys out there, I'm not one of them, okay, and I don't think you were either, but they specifically target or prey on heavyset women. I remember when I was living back in Pennsylvania, probably in my early 20s, I knew two brothers. They were Polish brothers, and they were both, really decent shape, but every Friday and Saturday night, they went out and they got a different girl every night. But the way they did it, they specifically targeted girls who were overweight. Why? Because there was much less competition. Why? Because they were flattered by the attention. And they claimed, I don't know, that they really put out for them because they wanted to prove themselves to these guys. But these guys were just users. They were going from one to the other, just building up the notch count. But there are guys out there that will use women like that, or even women that aren't that attractive, right? And then, but there is, and it's, I don't even know how to measure it. There's a fetish out there. There are some guys that really dig heavy chicks, like the 600-pound chick on the Discovery Channel.
Whale hunters. Yeah, I know that. It's, well, okay. Here, let's. We're really gonna talk about fat chicks. Okay.
Yeah, but Rolo, there
are guys. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, when a guy tells me like, oh, I have a preference for overweight women, I'm like, no, that's not a preference. Okay, because I mean, if you look at this from an evolutionary standpoint, guys are looking for younger, hotter, tighter. That is the basis. We're always looking for youth and fertility because those are qualities in a female that we would like to reproduce with. So when a woman is morbidly obese, and I'm just going, the woman that's like on the cover shot of this article is definitely would be the clinical definition of morbidly obese. Okay, so it's not overweight. It is obese. So let's just clarify terms there a little bit. But when guys tell me that they have a preference for that, usually what that means is that when guys develop a fetish or preference for something, it's because it's been successful for them in the past. Like they had an easier time getting laid with a fat chick than they would with a girl who actually has some sense of her own sexual market value. And that's really tough for some guys because, like, you know, well, we joke about this all the time too. It's you know, nobody's ugly after 2 a.m. And a guy is desperate enough to do something like that. He'll go and hit it.
Any port in a storm.
Yeah, any port in stuff. And I think pretty much, I don't know about you, but I think pretty much every guy has like that one chick that he nailed that was just like a little below his standards, but he thinks about it and he goes, oof, you know, and then you learn where your threshold is, I think. But I think most guys, when it comes to what their preferences are, I should also say that that preference dynamic also works for chicks who are like older than they are. If you're going for like if you're like in your 20s and you're hitting cougars, it's usually because it's easier to get with a cougar than it is to get with a girl of your own age, and rightfully so, because most of the women their own age aren't interested in those guys unless they're like exceptionally hot, unless they're like, you know, male model, you know, hot fireman hot. Then maybe you can make a case for that. But I would say that most guys, average dudes, they will find that it's much easier to get with a fat chick, and it's much easier to get with an older chick because they have different incentives and different motivations to have sex.
There's less resistance, less competition too.
Yeah. God, you know, we talked about this last week. Chateau Hartiste is gone as far as I can tell, but he used to have a really great article up there that I've quoted many times, and it is called "The Difficulty of Gaming Women at Various Ages."
Right.
And it is like the most brutal assessment of the sexual marketplace that I've ever read, particularly when it comes for women. It was one of the things I quoted it in my second book, because at different stages of a woman's maturity, there are different aspects of game that you have to apply. Like on average, you know, I'm not saying that in general, let's just say, to be successful with those chicks, as opposed to, say, like, what the game you're going to run on a girl who's like 24 years old is not the same game you would run on a 44-year-old girl, if that was what you chose to do, because it's first of all, it's easier, and there's different incentives and different priorities in play for that. Same thing applies to fat girls. It's much easier to get with a fat girl because her window of opportunity is a whole lot different than a girl who's hot, who has more and more guys coming onto her. So this is where I kind of throw out the idea of where guys will say, well, you know, any girl can get laid. She just has to go to the bar and she can find a guy, and as long as she spreads her legs, everything's fine. And she could, you know, that's they tend to use that as the standard for why it's easier for women to have sex than it is for guys to have sex. And for the most part, they're right, but there are extenuating circumstances, like if you are fat and overweight. So the opportunity, maybe you have beta orbiters, but you don't have the beta orbiters that a really hot girl has. So, you know, and here's the other thing you need to understand about fat women is that hypergamy, well, first of all, hypergamy doesn't care. And hypergamy doesn't care because it is what it is when it comes to what that woman is willing to do or willing to put on the line or in exchange for her own sexuality. So if a woman is not having the same kind of opportunities that other women are, I think men make the mistake of thinking that all women are like untouchable or unreachable or as unreachable as some other women are. So they tend to apply a baseline standard of hypergamy to all women. And they don't really realize that there's a lot of variables that go in between all of that. So when you are when you're, God forbid, you would even need to game a fatter girl, be careful, because those are going to be the chicks that are going to cling to you like crazy afterwards. Yeah, you are going to create sort of an implied commitment or an implied contract with that girl.
30 years later, you're the one that got away.
Yes. And be prepared, especially if you are, remember what we say about SMV ratios. So that's implied with a girl who is overweight. If you are 1 to 2 steps above her in sexual market value, you will be the best dude she's ever had sex with.
Okay, couple things here. First of all, if women are listening to this, I already know what they're going to be saying. You know that we're shallow, we're insecure. All we care about is looks.
Yes.
That, you know, that we must be insecure ourselves, or they'll criticize.
Well, it's not insecurity, but yeah.
Here's the deal with guys. Okay, this is the same thing I say to women. Okay, don't settle. Don't settle. Get the best you can get. Get the absolute best that you can get, accept nothing less. Now, for some guys, that's all it's going to be. That's as good as it's ever going to get. It's just a degree of size there. But this, what they're doing here, though, is they're trying to talk guys into rethinking, something that's intuitively in us. I mean, we're built to look for certain things. You've talked about the physical characteristics, and they're trying to sell us on something that's much larger that we don't want.
Yeah, well, if you read this article, it's all these really kind of intrinsic qualities that you're supposed to appreciate in a woman, but that's not what guys are looking for. We're looking for younger, hotter, tighter. We're looking for, we're looking for a thinner girl. Now, that is sort of a subjective thing too, because you have to know that, like, black guys tend to go for heavier girls. Okay, that's just a fact. I don't know why. That's not my preference, but I used to think, I used to be like very, very strict about my thinkings when it comes to women who are overweight, because I would always think that, it makes evolutionary sense for a guy to say, okay, I want a chick who has an hourglass figure. Okay, that's pretty much a global thing. That's of all of these standards of beauty research that I've read, there are certain unique things about a woman, like larger breasts. Okay, larger breasts mean, you can take care of the baby better. Wider hips. That hip to waist ratio is I forget what the actual ratio is, but it's implied that if she's got wider hips, she's going to have an easier time having a baby. So therefore, guys want to have sex with girls who have that hourglass figure. Nice legs, a nice butt, that kind of thing, some kind of symmetry. But once again, here's why I say hypergamy is only something that women experience, because men don't have a attraction threshold. We will go below what we would think is our own sexual market value if it means we're not going to be lonely at 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. Okay, we will do that if we're drunk enough. We'll go and have sex with a girl who is like below our quote unquote standards, right? So, but women don't necessarily do that unless they're hammered. So it's usually it's usually at or above their sexual market value. They have an attraction floor. Men don't have that attraction floor. We'll go and hit it. We'll go slump busting, or we'll go and hit it with women who are, what we wouldn't otherwise prefer to have sex with that chick. I mean, our natural instinctual arousal mechanisms are for a certain set of visual cues that we see. Like we've talked about this before, where it's like if a guy sees a half naked chick, it triggers a part in his brain that is associated with tool use. Okay, we can see that, and we can track that. We can measure that. We can measure that. So there is that as a universal, but then you got to add variables on top of that. There's cultural variables and there's other things. So when they do this kind of research as to what is beautiful and what is not, what is universally beautiful and what is universally, and there's a lot of standards for that, but it also changes in the sense that culture will change it. Like there was a Rubenesque period in Western Europe where like fatter chicks were supposed to be the hot thing, and women love that because it's like, oh well, I don't have to worry about being thin for these guys. And if you go and you look at pornography and you look at like the different niches of pornography, guys get off to all kinds of body shapes and all kinds of hair colors and all kinds of heights and all kinds of skin colors. That you go and the best thing about like sites like Pornhub is they have a blog, and it's like, it's not pornographic. You just go in there and they have all of the in their blog, they have all the statistics that they've collected, because no one in the history of humanity has collected statistics like Pornhub is. And they can track, what it is that guys are looking at and what it is that girls are looking at, and they can break it down by demographics that would blow your mind. So yes, there are definite universal things, but there are also generalities and subjective, things for those guys. But one thing that you will not find, though, is you won't find women into big, beautiful dudes. Women have and I have locked horns with so many women about this, but and the reason for it is because they can't deny it, is that women's standard of beauty for men, their ideal standard of physical attraction for men, is much more strict and much more static than men's are.
Danny Cahill from the Biggest Loser, I think he won season 8. His heaviest was 500 pounds. He talked about the fact that there is a stigma that is attached only to men now that women are given a free pass on. He says, no, no chick ever desired me, at my peak weight, 465 pounds, whatever it was, 500 pounds. He says, but there are guys out there that look for women like that. And women want to shame us if we don't like the way they look, then it's our fault. Here's my rule of thumb. And I've told this to my boys too. I expect a woman to be the best she can be. I don't want you to be a supermodel. I want you to be the best your body type can be. And it's the same thing I expect from myself. And my boys should expect from themselves to be the best you can be. Now, if she's being the best she can be for you, that makes it even hotter. That makes it even hotter.
My wife has very good genetics, and anybody who's ever seen her, like in our, in the 21 convention speakers, knows what I'm talking about. My wife she's, let's just say she's in her 50s right now, and she still has a flat stomach. She still gets to the gym pretty much every day. Any day that she's not working, she's usually at the gym. Her ass still looks great. She's got nice breasts. She's, still has very long, blonde, beautiful hair. And I'm still very much attracted to her.
You didn't follow your own rule, the 5 to 7 year difference.
Yeah, I didn't in that terms, but well, it's not my rule. It's women's rule, right? So I guess actually I'm an outlier in that sense because I'm pretty close to my wife's age. So yeah.
So there are actually some things in here. They're stereotypes, but they tend to be true that bigger women overcompensate. They'll say they've got a charming personality. I can't think of any fat women that I know personally that aren't fun to be around. I mean, they're constantly laughing. I don't know if it's a defense mechanism or what it is, but they're fun to be around. They're talkers. If you're their guy, they're going to go out of their way to do extra for you. So there's an argument that can be made, and that's where they're leaning with this happier thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, go ahead. Okay, I was going to say remember when I talk about how it is that most women today, particularly feminist women, the mantra for feminist women is never do anything for the express pleasure of a man, because that goes against the strong, independent woman narrative. For fat women, I think fat women have a very tough time with that, unless they are just like intrinsically, like Triggly Puff, feminist with purple hair, that kind of stuff. And then they're really lost.
Angry at the world.
And then probably they're going to be lesbians anyways. But let's just say for sake of argument, they're not. That is the reversal of what I'm talking about when I say that women need to consider the concept of value added, because fat women have to add value beyond the physical, because they realize in their hindbrains, they realize that they better have something extra, that is because they have a deficit. They can't make up for that deficit in the sense that I'm a hot little, spinner that guys want to get with. So I have to be funny. And you look at all these, I'm just going to switch over here real quick. They're talking about, most men don't like dieting. Okay. They're adding, like, if you look at each one of these little things.
Can I get to that one? Because that to me was the absolute funniest. Now listen to this. By the way, I got a buddy who's got a
plus size women have charming personalities. Yes, they do, because they have to.
Hold on. I got a buddy who's got a cattle ranch. I'm going to tie this into it. Okay. So it says, most men do not do things like dieting. He says, men like to eat. They will want to taste on different varieties of meals. With a plus size woman, you'll be able to eat out and try different meals, as they are not restricted when it comes to eating. There's actually, because they feed the cattle different things at different stages, especially before they go to slaughter. There's a pen at my buddy's place. It says, no feed restrictions. If you're going to marry the fat girl, invite me to your wedding. I'm going to give you a plaque, so you just put it on your bed. No feed restrictions. That's got to be. That's when I'm reading this and I'm going, this can't be real. This got to be like it's from Out of the Onion or something.
Yeah.
It says, this was the best. This was the best. Plus size women make their men secure. You know why? Husbands will always be secure with a chubby wife, as other men do not always pick them, and they're not as seen as attractive. In other words, you don't have to worry about somebody stealing your wife if she's plus size.
Yeah. Boy, isn't that a selling point right there, right? Well, and they're not incorrect about that. What I find really funny is, like, women who are overweight tend to be very possessive of the guys that they get,
especially if the guy's in good shape.
Yeah. Well, and they have to be, because they know, and they have to do things that you wouldn't necessarily. And when you put this out there, I hate to like sound flippant about this, because it's actually a pretty serious thing, because most most of the time when you read something like this, or when you see women who are involved in the body positivity thing or the fat acceptance thing, you know, they don't want to call it fat acceptance anymore. It's body positivity, because you can't call it fat acceptance, because fat would mean that you're actually promoting an unhealthy lifestyle. So now it's body positivity sounds a lot better than that way, but it's basically fat acceptance. And what they're doing is they're saying, men, you, not only do we want you to think like women, not only are we going to raise you little boys as defective girls, we're going to shame you for any intrinsic, you know, arousal cues that you evolved over the last, you know, 100,000 years in your, you know, your evolved mental firmware. We're going to shame you for that. And here's the other thing: whenever you're looking at anything that feminists throw out, and anything that is like very pro-feminine in our gynocentric social order, it is always based on the blank slate. It's always based on a social constructionist ideology, and this is no exception. So what it is like men, you know, men would love to be with fat women if they would only just unlearn all of what society has been teaching them about what beauty is and what beauty isn't. And so therefore you get Tess Holiday, and therefore you get over, and you know, I'm not going to say Tyra Banks is overweight. She's a little heavier. Let's just say that. Okay. But you get those girls on the cover of Sports Illustrated, because there's this idea that we need to reprogram men to desire those things. Well, we don't desire those things. It's as simple as that. And the reason we don't is because we weren't evolved to find those things attractive. We have to learn to push past those things if we're getting into that. That's why I say you have to be desperate to get with a fat chick. So you develop a preference for that fat chick. And what you're doing is you are pushing down, you're repressing your natural desire for a hot girl, because in your hindbrain, you know that you probably can't get that. And it's easier to get with a fatter chick, because you still want to spread the seed. You still want to follow your biological imperatives as a guy, but it's too difficult to get with hot chicks. So let's go for a heavier girl, because that's going to work out. And there's a whole social mechanism in place to reinforce that in you and condition you to believe that not only is it bad for you to think this way, but you need to get with these girls, because look at all these intrinsic qualities that she's got. Look what you're passing up in these girls. And you know, a skinny girl is gonna give you so much crazy grief. Why wouldn't you want to get with a fat girl who has to have that insight to really develop other aspects of herself that would be value added? Because there's really no value. Well, let's just say there's less value added with the chick who's heavier, at least from an evolutionary instinctual point of perspective. And I'm trying to make this as nice as I can, because I know people struggle with their weight, whatever. But here, the point is you're not fighting against a social imperative. You're not fighting against a socially constructed standard of beauty in men. You're fighting against 100,000 years of evolution. And I've used this, and this was one of my favorite quotes that I use, because I picked this up from Jurassic Park. And there's a part in Jurassic Park where they're trying to feed the Tyrannosaurus Rex a goat, right? And the goat's just, you know, they want to feed the goat. Like, that's all you're just going to feed it, and it'll behave, right? Well, one of the doctors says, you can't, you know, T-Rex wants to hunt. He doesn't want to be fed. And that's what this boils down to, is men don't want to be told what it is that they should and shouldn't get into, or what they want to have as a sexual partner, because that's in the movie. It said you can't repress 65 million years of gut instinct. It's the same thing for guys. You're not going to repress you're not going to repress 100,000 years of human evolution just because you want to improve the chances of reproduction for fat girls. That's what this really all boils down to. Is it's social engineering to get guys to think that this is what they ought to be doing. Go look at all these benefits right here. Well, why do I still feel like I don't want to get with that? Why do I still feel like I want to, you know, have sex with a hot stripper down the street at the strip club? Well, it's because society has taught you that. No, it's not. It's 100,000 years of evolution that's taught you that. That's why.
We're back to what I said earlier. This advice, I give it to men, I give it to women. Don't settle. Get the best that you can get. Whatever that is, get the best that you can get. Don't settle. And what they're trying to They're telling this. I actually recoil when I see stuff like this, because they're telling me as a guy what I should think, how I should feel, what I can and cannot say, what I need to do. And 9 times out of 10, it's a woman telling me.
Yeah, of course it is. Because remember, all of this stuff about like, oh, you want to get with a fat girl or something, all of this is developed after the sexual revolution. All of this is developed once we ceded power to women with respect to reproduction, with respect to essentially social power in our society. We keep coming back to the idea of gynocentrism, or a feminine primary social order. All of this stuff, it revolves around making it as easy as possible for a woman to follow her hypergamy, her evolved sexual strategy. So that's why you get abortion. That's why you get divorce laws the way they are. That's why you get fat acceptance, because there's this idea that men need to accommodate women's sexual strategy by completely and utterly abandoning their own sexual strategy. According to gynocentrism, a man should only ever be able to follow his own biological imperatives if he's like that top 80 to 85, maybe 90 percentile of guys who's alpha and looks good and everything. And those are the guys that all those women want to share. But even that dude, fat women say, hey, we want a chance at the good looking dude too. So you should accept us. And here, let's institute some social conventions that will make those guys, brainwash these guys into thinking that they need to repress their natural revulsion to women who are morbidly obese and want to get with them. So I keep seeing that people say, like, it wasn't because of this story, but it was, I think we were talking about, were we talking about the Sports Illustrated cover? Maybe it was a Tess Holiday thing. And somebody sent me this picture of this guy who was average, not fat, but not like in shape, but he's with this just grossly morbidly obese girl, and they're taking selfies in the bathroom or something like that. And like, oh, look, see, it's possible. You red pill guys are just, misogynists and love conquers all. And it's like, and the expression on the guy's face is like, and we want to use that kind of imagery as if it's proof positive or proof of concept. And it's not. Those are outliers. Those are gross, crazy outliers that we want to throw out there and say, well, this is, see, it is possible. And it's not, because there is a natural revulsion for women who are not attractive. Not, if you see a girl who's, trailer park girl with no teeth and she looks like she's got scabs on her from, meth used or some shit like that, because it's sick. We're looking at something that, like, I've talked about revulsion before. This is evolutionary psychology principles, revulsion. Like human beings will be naturally revolted, or will be repulsed, I guess, by certain stimuli in their environment. So usually that's feces, that's a dead body, the smell of a skunk, the sight of a snake, maybe spiders, those kinds of things. Those are things that are written into our mental firmware, so that we don't get killed, or we don't make ourselves sick because our ancestors who didn't heed the warning of a dead body or feces on the ground or some kind of putrefaction or something like that, those people tended to die. So that's part of our natural revulsion. And I'm using very extreme examples right now for, you want to stay away from that. It's the same thing when we see something wrong with a person. There are behavioral cues that a person, like if a person's acting crazy and they're kind of like, like this, you're like, whoa, dude, why do you feel that way? Well, because you don't want to be around crazy. You don't want to, you might get hurt. That's also why women and children overestimate men's anger. There's what's called male anger bias. And it was safer for women to presume, and children to presume, that men were always angry. And so anything they say means, oh, dad's angry, might kill us. We better stay away.
Two things. Yeah. First of all, people are saying I'm not popping up on the screen.
Oh, damn it. Okay, there we go.
Rolo's hogging the screen again. Second week in a row. I don't know.
My bad. God damn it. It happens every time I put I put the screen capture on here, and that's what
I want to get to the Iron Rules. So let's get to that.
Okay. All 9. Okay. Well, let me just really quickly. Let me just finish with the revulsion side. So there, as far as that revulsion side, there's also not wanting to get with a girl who is overweight and there's something wrong with her. It goes along with that as well. And so men have a natural revulsion against that, and they have a natural arousal to women who have that hourglass figure. So there's always going to be a verifiable, concrete standard of arousal and attraction. You know, Roosh calls it the boner test, right? If she doesn't pass the boner test, it took us 100,000 years to evolve the boner test. So go with your evolved, imperatives. Okay. Anyways, how did
you come up with the Iron Rules?
The Iron Rules. How did I come up with the Iron Rules? The Iron Rules came about when I was at SoSuave, and we're at the top of the hour. Okay. And a lot of them came from forum conversations that I had with these guys, and then also really my own experience, and then sharing those experiences, and then finding out that a lot of guys across the planet shared those experiences. And I think I feel kind of almost like honored that I'm like one of the first dudes who's had that opportunity to share those experiences with other guys and sort of collect all that data and sort of put it into a list of rules. So there's a few things you need to understand those. When I came up with those rules, they were the most common things that I was seeing happening with the guys on SoSuave at that point. And most of these, I would say of the 9, probably 6 of these were things that I personally, they're rules I personally broke at some point. People keep saying, "Oh, Rollo, you're breaking a rule about this." It's like, yeah, I know. I didn't get to where I'm not writing books because I did everything right. I did everything wrong. That's why. So I want to make sure that, you people have, the information they need. And that's really what this is.
All right. Let's get into it. Let's break them down. Okay. Starting with the Iron Rule number 1. In fact, it's a spinoff. This is one of the things that really got me interested in your book. For years, I've been saying, he who controls the language controls the debate. Roe versus Wade is a perfect example. You've got something very similar to that, and it's frame. Frame is everything. Talk to me about that.
Okay. When I first started talking about frame, it was in response to it was in response to pickup artists at that time. They were using the term frame. You lost frame, right? That was the whole thing about like when you're in the middle of an approach, or you're in the middle of a Sarge, and you're trying to run game on a girl, you have to remain in what they would call your frame. And I was looking at that, and I read that because frame is actually a larger psychological principle than just, running game on girls. Frame is something that it's a state with, it's a psychological state or a sociological state of whose narrative you're going to be a part of, or is that girl going to be a part of your narrative? The best example I can give you that's not game related is when you go to work and you spend 8 or 9 hours at work, you are in the frame of your employer or your supervisor. You have to do what they say because you have an implied, well, you have really probably a contractual agreement to do what they say. So for those 8 or 9 hours of that day, you have agreed to operate within that person's frame. So when you are, and that's the nice way of saying, you need to, you're operating on somebody else's rules, basically. So frame applies to lots of different things, though. So when children should be, or usually are, naturally in the frame of their parents because they depend on those parents for, food and nurturement. It's not so much control as it is that this is like, it's not to say that, children don't resist their parents' frames. They absolutely do. Same thing with wives, same thing with brothers and sisters. Frame is not just about intersexual dynamics. It's also about family dynamics. It's also about work dynamics, all kinds of things. But when I was writing this, I'm writing it about intersexual dynamics, and I took the idea of frame from pickup artists and I applied it to a larger relational dynamic between men and women, and that it is something that most men don't give themselves permission to do. We've been taught that we need to be egalitarian with women. Like we don't want to ever, place ourselves a little bit above women at all as men, even though women might want that, their actions and their, naturally they want a man who has some sort of masculine dominance so that they can submit to that guy. But we have to learn this in a social framework that says we're all equal and we have to be equals, and men need to support women, and women should be your mental point of origin, and we're going to teach our boys as if they're defective girls. We teach them all of that, so it's very difficult for guys to break out of the idea that they need to be the primary in their relationship. And the most important thing, because I'm going to cover this because I know you're going to ask me about this, is that when you are considering a long-term relationship with a woman, you need to enter into that with your frame. She needs to be there in your frame and submitting to it, and doing so willfully and doing so voluntarily. She has to, she's got to want to be able to take your last name, right? We've talked about that, how women are resisting taking the last names of their beta husbands.
So if they don't, that's a deal breaker.
Because I would say that any woman that considers keeping her surname in marriage, you do not hold frame in that marriage.
What if she's older? Say she's 35 or 40. She's a doctor. She's a lawyer.
Matter.
That name is her brand.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. Because if you had a strong frame, women even of that, caliber or whatever, if they are into you, that won't even be an issue. They won't even think about that, because it's like, I want to have his name. I want to be part of his life. I want to, like, when I talk about frame, and this is also something I picked up from pickup artists, is that when you are establishing frame, you have to have a world that woman wants to enter into, and she has to do it like through genuine desire. She has to genuinely want to be in the relationship with you, because she sees you as a benefit to her life. She sees you as, she wants to be involved with you because of who you are, well, because of what you are.
You add value.
That you're at, yeah, you add value. Well, most women, if I don't want to go all like Ayn Rand on you, but most women they want to be associate. They want to have an association with a powerful man, with a man who has high status. And so when you tell me, oh, well, that woman is going to be, she's a lawyer or she's a doctor and she wants to keep her last name because her brand is important to you. First of all, nobody cares unless you're Madonna. Okay. But because unless you have some, unless you have a one name character that you play as an actor or a musician, really nobody gives a rat's ass what your last name is. And most women understand that. The reason they resist taking a man's last name is because in their hindbrain they understand that this is not a man that they want to submit to, that they want to have a relationship where they trust him to be the dominant masculine guy. And most guys, like I said, most beta guys, being the 80th percentile, tend to be okay with that, because they've been conditioned for a very long time to think that they need to be in an egalitarian, equalist relationship. And so they're like, okay, we're it's like what you call it, Prince Harry and Meghan, right? That's supposed to be okay. Who owns frame in Harry and Meghan? Who do you think? Yeah, Meghan. Obviously, and it's blatantly obvious to anybody else. You want to see an example of frame? That's an example of frame. It's the bad example, but that is an example of frame.
She's taking over the royal family.
Yeah,
she's hijacked the whole thing.
Right, and if you asked Harry, he would go, oh, well, we're a modern couple. We share things 50-50 and we're egalitarian and all that stuff. No, you're not. She owns the frame. You think it's about 50-50. You think it's equal, but she owns the frame. And if you show me any relationship where you want to say, well, my wife and I have an egalitarian relationship, I will show you example after example of how she owns a frame on you. Because you have accepted this social constructionist idea that that's what you need. So frame is a world that your girl wants to enter into.
All right. I'm watching the clock. I want to stick to like 5 minutes on all
Yeah. I know. These are easy to get carried away with.
The Iron Rule of Tomassi number 2. Never, ever, ever, under pain of death, honestly or dishonestly, reveal the number of women you slept with or explain any detail of your sexual experience with them or your current lover. By the way, I think that goes both ways. Is the guy, don't ask the woman. You'll know based on her performance. You're opening Pandora's box. It never ends well. You can't close it once it's open.
Right. Just and I agree with you, but I think guys need to adopt this idea when it comes to, being the, how many notch counts does this girl have? Understand that if you are having sex with a girl, a modern average girl, either this generation or one or two back, that girl's probably had sex before she met you. So just get that in your head. What is it? 98%, 90, probably 97, 98% of men and women have had premarital sex. So let's just play with all the cards on the freaking table here. So I think that what guys do is they adopt this silly idea that they've got a quality woman and that she's their snowflake and she's different from everything else. And so they want to verify that for themselves. And they want to say, well, I got to ask this girl, how many guys she's had. Well, you don't need to do that. The reason you don't need to do that is, first of all, it makes you look weak, and it does actually make you look insecure that you're asking that. Because if you're an alpha guy, first of all, it probably is not going to matter to you because you have other opportunities and you're probably nailing other girls at the same time, anyways. I mean,
I'm just thinking of a guy going like this. Am I your first? And batting his eyebrows.
Yeah. Well, and people are going to give me, well, no alpha guy would get with a girl who's not a virgin. Well, good luck. Good luck, man. 98%. Good luck. Yeah. But there needs to be, and I don't want to give anybody prescriptions because that's not what I want to do with the Iron Rules here. They're not, by the way, the Iron Rules are not my 12 rules for life or my 9 rules for life. Okay. These are suggestions. I'm not saying, I should have said this in the beginning. I'm not saying that you have to follow every single one of these. I'm not even saying you have to agree with every last one of these things. I'm just saying that these are some things, some suggestions. So these are the 9 iron suggestions for your life. And yeah, well, anyways, just gonna say is never reveal the amount or the number of partners that you have had, because I will guarantee you that in every instance, when a woman wants to know that, she's trying to understand that when she's asking you that, she's trying to determine whether or not you are alpha. She's trying to, that's a shit test. When a woman asks you those questions, like, how many girls have you been with? You're like, tonight? That's when you go agree and amplify. That's when you go cocky funny. That's when you apply other things to that, because first of all, it's none of her damn business. And then second of all, if you what I always tell guys is if a girl asks you that, you say, no, you're my first. I've never had sex before in my life. And you throw those things out there, because what you're doing when you do that is you're saying remember how we say play with her and play with her? That's what I mean. You're playing a game with her and she understands that you just get it when you do something, when you joke around after she's asked you, because what you're doing, you're telling her hindbrain, I know the game that you're playing and here I'm going to play it with you. And you're not going to get what you want out of me, but you will get the satisfaction of knowing that I know how to play your game. So,
all right. Iron Rule Tomassi number 3. Any woman who makes you wait for sex or by her actions implies that she's making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth
the wait.
Now, here's the one where now tradcons, I'm telling you, this is, whoa.
Everybody loses their mind.
Yeah, you want her to be a slut on the video. Now, it's like a catch-22. If she has sex with you on the first date, you consider her a slut. She can't win either way.
No. We could probably dedicate an entire show to this, because I get run up the flagpole with feminist women and with particularly quote unquote red pill tradcon life coach women when I say stuff like this, because it's really hard to defend this. It's hard to say, well, what are you saying? You're saying that we should just go and have sex with sluts all the time, or women don't want to seem like they're easy. No, they don't care. Okay. Women don't care if you think that she's easy or not. I mean, let's be honest here, because when at least younger women don't care, or women who have something to lose don't care, or don't have anything to lose, don't care. Like I've used this before, is when I was talking about my poor girls, and I'm talking about that conversation where they were having, where one asked the other, would you have sex with a guy on the first date? And then the other one says, well, yes, of course I have, but not if he was boyfriend material. And they don't realize that that's sort of this cognitive dissonance that women can hold. And if you don't learn anything from this show except for this, learn this, is that women can hold two conflicting ideals in their head at the same time, and it doesn't like destroy their brains, and their brains doesn't explode or anything like that. They actually operate that way because it is beneficial to them to be able to have that cognitive dissonance depending on what their needs and their necessities are, and the priorities that they apply to them. So learn that right there. But what I was saying is that when women will say, well, I will go have sex with the hot guy in the foam cannon party on spring break, but not if I thought he was long-term worthy. And we talked about this too, is that women will create rules for beta men and they will break rules for alpha men. So yeah, so what's the rule that they're breaking right there? Well, it is a fact that they want you to think that they have what's called ASD, anti-slut defense. And some women do have that, but they only have it for certain guys. They don't have an anti-slut defense for, rock band drummer, and they want to be the groupie that gets with them after the show. So when I'm talking, and you need to understand the root of why I made this a rule, is because this is not a rule that says, oh, you should just go get with random sluts. It's not. What it is it's determining genuine desire. So guys, like I have Christian guys will hit me up and they'll go, well, I can't do that. I can't have sex with girls, or I can't spin plates because my religious convictions keep me from doing that. Well, I go and I say, look, it's not about whether or not you're having sex with that girl. It's about how badly she wants to just tear your clothes off and have sex with you. And that's why I say when a woman makes you wait for it, it's usually because there is some sort of mitigation. She's looking for a better option. You're the beta that she has to make rules for you, the hoops you have to jump through in order to get to her, intimacy. You will see women, and here's the thing, women will back this up with their examples, their unsolicited examples constantly I get people sending me links to Twitter all the time about examples of how women will be happy to go have sex with one guy, but then they'll make the other guy jump through hoops. So what I'm saying in this rule is don't be the guy that is made to jump through hoops. You want frame, you've got to be the guy that she doesn't want to wait to have sex with, because if you are a high enough value man, hypergamy cannot afford to miss out on you as a breeding opportunity or as a reproductive opportunity. Now, that's the nuts and bolts answer to it. And obviously we can't just go around screwing everything, but that's what this is meant to determine. It's meant to determine and to wake guys up to be focused, laser freaking focused on genuine desire. Because if you're made to wait for sex, you are not going to have the same kind of sex, and you're not going to have the same kind of intensity, and you're not going to have the same kind of carefree, validational sex that we've talked about before, as the guy who's the hot guy in the foam cannon party that she wants to jump in the sack with as quickly as possible, because he represents that really high level of genuine desire that she wants. So this is most guys will make up these ideas for themselves, like, well, she finally had sex with me because I proved to her that I was, a leader of the community, and I'm the pastor of my youth, group at church, and because I virtued her into bed. No, you didn't. She made you jump through hoops, and she made rules for you that she would never have instituted for a guy that she had genuine desire.
Not negotiate genuine
desire, and that's what that's for. The desire dynamic is intimately tied to this rule.
A couple things I want to throw back. Remember, we said never discuss your notch count or sex partners. The other thing guys need to watch out for, especially the earlier she asks you this, if she says, "How much do you make?" That is a red flag. You're in the danger.
What car do you drive?
Yeah. It's all about
where do you live?
That kind of status. And the other thing is, you're talking about frame. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think the number one way guys lose frame is once they become sexually active with that woman, because we talked about this before, they're no longer thinking rationally. They're thinking like a chick.
There's something to lose.
They've fallen in love. And that's where most guys, I think, lose control and turn the keys over to the woman.
Because most guys are beta. And people always say, well, beta guys get laid too. Like that's some revelation to me. Yeah, I know. I was one of them. I got laid when I was still very much blue pill and very much beta. You can actually, in fact, get laid.
They're not getting the validation.
But those are the guys who end up like that dude in my post Saving the Best. They find out later that the chick who is not giving him blowjobs and is not, giving him his sexual best that he married. Or was it? I'm so lucky I married a slut who fucks like a prude. That's what you get You know, that's what you get if you don't understand this rule. That's
Rule
what
number four. Rule number
Mhm.
4. Never, under any circumstance, live with a woman you aren't married to or are not planning to marry within the next 6 months. We'll just call this the Love Shack rule. Tell me why guys should not do that. What happened?
Let's backtrack a little bit here. When I was writing this rule, or when we came up with this, it was because so many dudes were coming up with the same story. I was having great hot sex with my girl, and then I thought it would be a great idea to move her into my apartment, and then suddenly now she doesn't want to have sex with me anymore, or you know, we're just not into it anymore. We're just not into each other anymore, and I don't know if I can do this anymore. But I signed my name on this lease with her, and now I'm stuck for a year with this chick who you know, only grudgingly gives me a blowjob once in a while. It is so common a story that I had to make a rule out of it. And what it is that when you move in with a woman, all of the competition anxiety, all of the urgency that went into having marathon sex with you is out the window. So she doesn't have to wonder, oh, I wonder who's over at his house having sex with him right now. I bet, you know, we were just talking about how fat chicks try harder. Well, women who are living with you don't try as hard as women who are not living with you, because there is an urgency and a tension and this competition anxiety when you are non-exclusive and you have her on rotation and you're meeting each other and you're trying to figure each other out and all that. But the sex that you have when you are not married and when you are not living together is always going to be more intense than when you guys are together, because you've just added comfort, you've added familiarity. She can smell your farts, you know what she looks like without her makeup on, you know, all of this kind of stuff. That goes along with the familiarity, the rapport. I hate the fact that PUAs use the word rapport, because rapport is anti-seductive. It's not seduction whatsoever. It's well, women need to be comfortable with you. Well, yeah, look what happens when women have a lot of comfort with you, like living with you comfort. They have no motivation. There's the incentive for them to have good sex with you is gone.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah, it does. So that's why I say, I'm not saying you don't, you know, obviously you don't live with your girl unless you're going to get married. That's why I said if you're not going to marry her within 6 months, if you've already been through, you know, the vetting process and you're in your early 30s and you go, okay, I think this one might be a good fit for me, then okay, you know, obviously you're gonna have to move in with her at some time if you guys are going to get married. But remember that when you move in with her, you are signing a contract that says, I, the undersigned, do hereby agree to have sex with this woman for the term of 1 year. Because once she is in that situation, you are legally bound to being her boyfriend for at least the term of that rental, unless you can kick her out, which you, in this day and age, you don't have that right to do that. You will be paying on a rental that if anything goes wrong, like in a domestic dispute or something like that, the cops take you away and you're paying the rent on the place where she's living right there. So the reason that this is a rule is so you can avoid those things and you don't hurt yourself. And this is one of those rules I'm happy to say I never broke. So.
All right, so I want to get on to Iron Rule of Tomassi number 5, and I got a story to tell this one. Never allow a woman to be in control of the birth. One of the hottest, I guess, pickup lines or elevator pitches I've ever heard a woman give somebody is, I had a complete hysterectomy when I was, 26. I have a strong pelvic floor and I know how to use it. Tell me more. Tell me more. But when it comes to birth control, you've got 43 different forms of birth control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 are for men. Condoms, vasectomy, all of the rest are for women. And so many guys count on the woman. They trust the woman to, take the pill, the shot, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Constantly. Yeah. And I think this rule is almost imperative for guys if you have broke up with a girl and you're having makeup sex, because most of the time when you have those unplanned, pregnancies, it's usually because she is worried that she's going to lose out on you. And so therefore, oops, I forgot to take the pill. Oops. I didn't write it in this particular post, but there are online forums where women will share techniques, and there's a black market for positive pregnancy tests right now. It's all legal. You can do anything you want. And so these forums are there to trick guys, to compare notes and to trick guys into thinking that the woman is pregnant and therefore he'll commit. Well, understand that there's nothing illegal with that, and women are doing stuff like that. So the only defense you have as a dude is to put a condom on it, wrap the rascal. You have to do that. I don't care how good it feels when you're going bareback, but do not ever trust a woman to have taken the pill and to be on it, and to be, even if she's on the pill, you put a condom on.
Come on, Roll.
I don't care how much you love her, because that's until there's something different, I'll be happy to change this rule. But there's nothing other than, putting a condom on and making sure that you're in charge of it. That's why I said it was birth control. Okay, it's controlling the birth, and there's only one way a man can control the birth, and that's with a condom.
I was gonna tell you. I said, "Come on, Roller. Tell me you don't shake people's hands with a glove on." As soon as I said that, somebody on the chat said, "No glove, no love."
No glove, no love. Yes. Well, and you have to. This is really more of a reminder than anything else, because, again, like what was I saying? I said that most of these rules come from guys' stories. And I would say the most common story is, oh shit, I knocked her up accidentally. There's no such thing as an accidental pregnancy. There is no such thing as an accidental pregnancy. You didn't put a condom on? Oh, well, that's not an accident. That's your fault. That's you didn't take control for it. Well, I trusted her. Guess you shouldn't have trusted her then. It's the pill's only 98.9% effective. And I was like, okay, but you still didn't put a condom on. You believed what she said. You believed that she was going to be in control of that. Well, I don't think people really realize that the degree of control that we give to women when it comes to human reproduction these days. And this, I meant to highlight that in this particular rule.
All right, let's move on to Iron Rule of Tomassi number 6. This every time I read this, I think of Anthony Bourdain. This should be an epiphany for every guy out there.
This needs to be a whole show to itself.
Right. Women are utterly incapable of loving a man in the way that a man expects to be loved. We don't love the same way. What are the terminologies you use for how a man loves as opposed to a woman loves?
Men love idealistically. Women love opportunistically. And women, again, this is another really contentious one, because it makes women lose their minds. What do you mean I love opportunistically? Yes, you do, because you would not allow yourself to fall in love with a guy who didn't in some way, to some degree, match up to your hypergamous needs, or he had to get past your hypergamous filter before you would have any kind of feelings for this guy. That's what I mean by opportunistic. When women are looking for guys, and that they enter into a social environment where they don't know any of the guys in that social environment, they are required to vet those guys and to use their hypergamous filters to figure out whether or not the guy is sending honest signals or he is sending fake signals. And women will not allow themselves to feel love or to feel an emotional connection to a guy who does not in some way trigger getting past that hypergamous filter. And so that's why I say it's opportunistic, because hypergamy is based on opportunism. It has to be, because that's what makes for a better race. That's what we've been programmed for by 100,000 years of evolution. So she's looking for something, she's looking for the bigger and better deal. Women don't look for sickly guys. They don't look for guys who are, there's no attraction or arousal cue for guys who are beneath them in sexual market value. Those are just very simple, basic. This is basic math, okay? For guys, it's based on idealism. And idealism is they believe in this idea of what could be. Because when we think of things, we think of things in terms of solving a problem. Men are deductive problem solvers, and part of that is wondering what could be. And because we have that as an intrinsic part of our nature as being problem solvers, we tend to lean towards idealism. Like, what's out there? What was it Steven Pinker was saying? Women tend to be more focused on people, and men tend to be more focused on things. And we were looking at the outside world. We're looking at how can I build a bridge to cross that river? How can I do this? How can I make a great piece of art? How can I do whatever? This kind of stuff. We want to enforce our will on the world, and what that requires of us is a sense of idealism. We have to think of what could be. Our idealism, same thing. So men tend to have this very kind of Pollyanna look at love, And they believe, and the lie is this, is that men and women both have a mutual concept of what love really is. But the fact is we approach love from very different angles. So men think that love should exist just for the sake of love, right? Because that's a very idealistic thing. Women will allow themselves. What do women say when they're in a marriage and they're falling out, quote unquote, falling out of love?
Because I hear this all the time. Mm-hmm. I love him, but I'm not
in love with him. What that means is that he doesn't I still have emotional connection to this guy because at one point he got past my hypergamous filter, but now that I've had time to think about it and run him through a bunch of shit tests, I find that I'm really not hot for him anymore, and I really don't want to have his babies anymore, but I'm locked into it right now because I made a bad decision before. That's what that means. That's what that means. That's the message. That's the underlying message. The medium is the message. That's what that is for that. So what I was doing with this rule is trying to draw attention to the fact that men and women have different concepts of love when they come to the table together. I'm not saying, here's what I'm not saying. Get this through your heads because everybody misconstrues this. I'm not saying that women can't love men. Most guys, when they see this rule, they think that that's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, women can love men and men can love women, and they can come together and they can make beautiful love together and they can have babies and they can have a good family and a good life and everything else. Okay. That's been happening since 100,000 years ago. Okay. But what I'm saying is that men believe that women can love them in this idealized way, in this, the way that they were hoping their mom was going to love them. Or a lot of people want to misconstrue this and say, well, it's the mother-son thing, or it's like an Oedipal complex. Maybe a little bit, but I think that it's more because men approach love from a very romanticized. We always say men are the real romantics, posing as realists, and women are realists posing as romantics. And what happens is when you come together and you realize how one another approaches love, and if you can accept that, you can actually have a pretty good relationship with that person. But men think that women should love them in that idealistic way, and sometimes men can enforce that and can be a high value enough guy that a woman will realize that and play up to his expectations. But she's not in love with him for the same reasons. She's in love with him because he's tripped all of those hypergamous filter prerequisites. So guys like particularly MGTOW guys, particularly black pill guys, they want to say, well, women can't love men because the way I love, my idealistic concept of love, is the only real concept of love. It's the only real thing. And so if she can't do that, then she can't love. No, that's you being stupid and selfish and not understanding that there are different concepts of love. And if you can come together and understand, if a woman can understand your concept and you can understand hers, then yes, you can actually have love together, because people do it. People do it all the freaking time. But no, they never love me. No, that's bullshit. It's you clinging to this idealistic thing, thinking that the world needs to change for you. No, you need to understand the way that women operate. That's
all right. I want to get on to Iron Rule of Tomassi number 7. And this one, I wish I had a pamphlet on the Iron Rules to hand out back in October when we were in Orlando and at the Patriarch convention. And I was with you a couple times when guys came up and asked you this: how do I get back with my ex? Tell me about number 7.
Don't do it. Let's read that too, because that's a really good one.
It's always time and effort better spent developing new, fresh, prospective women than it will ever be in attempting to reconstruct a failed relationship, with the emphasis on failed. Never root through the trash once the garbage has been dragged to the curb. You get messy, your neighbors see you do it, and what you thought was digging for is never as valuable as you thought it was.
Yeah, and it's ugly too, because you should have known better. A lot of guys will try to get back, and again, one more emphasis of this. The reason that this is a rule is because it's so common. And I've done this myself. This is one I've broken. So what I'm saying here is that the time and energy that you would spend in trying to make things right, to sort of get her to forget about the past and to move forward and to do something new, you're not gonna do that, because there's always going to be that time you guys broke up.
So even man.
Yeah, women keep a stamp book, but also there's always going to be that one time you broke up, and it's not even so much. Yeah, okay, so it can be a woman can keep the stamps and keep that in the back of her head the next time you guys have a fight. But you, as a guy, still realize that too. Like, remember that time that bitch cheated on me? Oh, I'm gonna go take her back. I'm gonna go root through the garbage because she really regretted, having sex with the hot guy on the phone with Kevin in sales, right? She had sex with this dude, and I'm gonna forgive her because I'm secure enough in my masculinity to let some other dude fuck my wife. That is you making up rationales for excusing bad behavior and excusing her lack of genuine desire for you, because you're desperate, because you have a scarcity mentality. And if I was to ever write a 10th rule, it would be something about scarcity mentalities, because most guys, the 80% of beta guys have a scarcity mentality, and that's why they do stuff like this. I'll never find a girl as good as her. I better make up and forgive her, or maybe she can forgive me for whatever it is that I did. 9 times out of 10, when guys want to get back with an ex, it's usually because they think that they can, meaning that the ex probably didn't break up with them, they broke up with the ex. And I would say, I don't know this statistically, but I'm fairly certain that women more often break up with men than men break up with women. Because women are the choosers, men are the performers, and that's why that works.
Women that break up more often, or men?
I think women are the ones that initiate the breakup before men.
Really?
Yeah. And well, hear me out. This is why I think that is, because women are the selectors. They're the ones that like see the guy's performance and they go, yeah, that guy, I'll take him. That's it's just the mechanics of our biomechanics. It's just what we evolved for. Is like men display, women choose. At least they choose at certain ages. Like when women are in their prime sexual market value peak years, yes, they're definitely the selectors. That changes later on when a man has more maturity and he's entering into his sexual market value peak years. So he becomes a sexual selector, but women don't want you to think that. But women are primarily in the years where it really matters, women are the ones who are the prime selectors. And so when there is a breakup, when there is a rejection of that, after there's been a relationship and there's been a rejection, it's usually because that woman says, I can get better. That dude didn't, my hypergamy asked me this question, and that question was, is he the best I can do? And I've finally determined he's not the best I can do, so bye-bye. Guys will stick it out far more. And remember, most guys are beta. Most guys, the 80% of guys are beta dudes, and they will do anything to maintain their quote unquote egalitarian relationship. So those are the guys that are going to keep coming back, and women are the ones that are going to more often reject those guys. So you have to, when you read this rule, you have to consider who's rejecting who in that situation. And the operative of all this is that rather than jumping through all the hoops and doing all the freaking algebra that it takes to figure out how to get back into her good graces, take all that energy and apply it to a new chick who you don't have a history with, and you don't have any, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you? You got all this effort and you go, oh, I really love her. She's going to be mine. I really want her back. And you're going to go and, learn how to create warp travel in space just to figure out how to get back with your girlfriend. Why don't you take all that energy and that effort and put it into something new that you won't even need to have half of that energy, and you'll have a better prospective relationship with a new person than it would take you to go and apply all that energy to something else. Why wouldn't you do that? So, to me, it's just pragmatism.
I think I shared this story with you before. A priest friend of mine was telling me about some of the things that he keeps hearing from people, and it has to do with social media in particular. He says, in days gone by, you rarely ran into somebody you dated in high school or college, even if you lived in the same community. But now with things like Facebook and Instagram, you can instantaneously look up an old flame. And a lot of people, he says, wind up doing this. They're in an otherwise happy marriage or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
and curiosity gets the better of them. They hook up with them, and he says, I keep trying to tell them, there's a reason you broke up. And whatever that reason was back then, it's even a better reason right now. Right. But I think it's with guys because they can, just to prove to themselves they still got it or whatever.
Okay, I'm going to give you a real gem here in the chat. I have this post. I just put it in there. It's called Old Flame New Game. It's exactly what you were just talking about. Yeah, guys love that. They want to, because here's the thing. What most guys do is they break up with a girl and they get all pissed off and they have some sort of epiphany, right? And I don't mean epiphany face. And they think, okay, I'm gonna change myself up, and they usually use that, like that rejection, as sort of a motivation to become the better version of themselves. And in a lot of cases, guys actually do that. They actually become a better version of themselves. They make more money. They go out and do whatever. They apply themselves, because most guys, rather than deal with the emotional fallout that comes from a rejection or comes from a bad breakup, they either get angry or they focus themselves on their mission, which is what they should have been doing in the first damn place. But now they're going to, okay, well, screw it. I'm here. What do they say? Revenge. The best revenge is living well, right? So I got to go out and live well, so that, really what you're doing is the motivation for you doing well is to make that chick who jilted you before, back in your high school years or whenever, like, oh, see, I'll show her. Then I'll go and post all of my great times and me banging chicks in Aruba on Facebook, and then she'll be really jealous of me. And you're just doing it. You're just jealousy motivated by what a woman thinks of you, which is really kind of stupid. But so when guys do that and they get motivated to go out and become the best version of themselves, they'll go red pill and they'll read my book, or they'll oh man, I wish I would have had this stuff before, and now that I know all this stuff, now I'm going to go back and get her again. Now that I'm game aware and I'm red pill savvy, I'm going to go back to the girl that blew me out, who knows everything about me, and I'm going to use game on her. I'm going to get her. And it's like, okay, even if that works, even if that could happen, first of all, she knows everything about you, but even if that could happen, is it worth it? Why would you do that? Why would you even bother with something like that instead of getting with a higher quality, better chick who wasn't going to reject you in the first place? Because the reason that chick rejected you was because you were a certain way, or you were a certain dude at that particular time. Now you're not that guy anymore. Do you really want to go back to that? Do you really want to go? I think, what is it that somebody reminded me one time? They said there's a passage in the Bible where, like, it says a dog goes back to eat its own vomit. And that's, I always like to think of that when I think of this rule, because most guys want to go back to their vomit and eat it back up once they're better dudes. But you're a better dude. Why would you go back to the same garbage that you just took out to the curb? So it's all pragmatism in the end of the day.
All right, let's move on to Iron Rules of Tomassi number 8. Always let a woman figure out why she won't screw you.
Yep.
Never do it for her. Explain this one to me. What's this about?
All right. Well, okay, I'm going to put this in the chat. Okay. The reason I put this on there is because guys think of things in terms of leagues, and I was really that's why I called the post of this was called the League of Their Own, or League of Your Own, because a lot of guys will blow themselves out. They will go, oh man, she's out of my league. I could never go out with a chick like that. And that's what blows people's minds when they see something like the old school pickup artists back, like maybe RSD. They see the video from videos of guys who were just not that attractive, that you would think that they would never get with as hot a girl as they were getting with. And then because they were out of their league, like there was a separation between that woman's sexual market value and your own, or your perceived sexual market value, at least. And they were just dumbfounded as to how a really hot girl would get with a guy who was clearly, visually not of her same league. And so everybody has to make up things, or the rationale is, oh, she must have low self-esteem to get with a nerd like that. Well, no, the guy had the balls to go and approach a girl that was, maybe out of his league. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as leagues, but I'm saying that there is the mentality of handicapping yourself intentionally because you believe in that league. You believe that you aren't good enough to get with that chick. And so what guys do is they figure out that they can't do that. And so they present themselves, or the attitude they have when they're approaching a woman is that she's already beyond them, and they're never going to, or they won't even bother approaching, because they have in their head that they will never get with a girl like that. So I'm just going to, if I'm a 5, I'm going to stick with 5s and maybe 6s if I could get that. But I'm certainly not going to even bother with a girl I think is a 9, because she'll just blow me out. Well, if you're thinking that way, then yes, that, what is it? Was it? Michael Jordan, you know, you miss all the shots you don't take. And
Right.
that's really what this is meant to say, is that never let a woman always let a woman figure out why she won't have sex with you. Never do it for her. And most guys will do it for her. They'll do it for her without even talking to her, because they won't take that chance, because they believe in leagues. So that's what this was meant to really address. This is actually a pretty simple one. I used to think this way, but then once I got into my 20s and my rock star 20s, I figured, you know, when you don't have anything left to lose, you'll try anything. And I was crazy to think that I could get with girls who were like swimsuit models, but I did. And then once you got with that, it's like, okay. And, you know, I've also slept with a Playboy centerfold at one point. And once you get past that, you're like, okay, what's left? What is, you know, where do we go from here? Because once you get past the idea of leagues, then guys have to like think about the whole game differently. And I think that that's really what throws guys off, is when you go from being blue pill conditioned to becoming red pill aware, it changes up your whole ideas. Like all of the really dearly held ideals that you had when you were, you know, in your blue pill days, all that's out the window and you don't know what to do with it. Well, I was kind of in that same situation when I was going from being this sort of beta blue pill guy in high school to being, you know, junior rock star in Hollywood during the late 80s and early 90s. And suddenly the girls who I thought were untouchable were very much touchable. They were touching me. They wanted to get after it with me. And I was like, okay.
The only time I ever experienced something like that myself, and I didn't get it from the girl, I got it more from her parents. When I was in high school, senior year, I was dating a girl who came from a very affluent family. Mm-hmm. And we had to go to a debutante ball. I had to learn how to do the waltz. Rollo, I'm telling you, it reminded me of Caddyshack. I just felt so out of place. And it wasn't like she wasn't into me and I wasn't into her. It's like, I don't think I fit what her parents wanted, because I came from a very, you know, humble family, humble means, and her dad, I mean, just had cash out the wazoo. Mm-hmm. And if I were ever to, you know, get married to her, which she wanted to do, right, it'd be under her dad's terms. I'd have to work for her dad. He'd be my boss, because I couldn't make the kind of money she needed otherwise. Yeah.
And so you felt that from a financial, a socioeconomic perspective.
But I felt it not from her, but from more from her family, from her parents.
From her family, yeah. Because okay, there is that idea that
I didn't fit.
Like you're an untouchable, right? You're like of a lower socioeconomic status, so they you know, well, you're trailer trash. What are you doing with my daughter? You know, how are you gonna? Yeah, and that again, that's like evolutionary psychology. Is that's kin affiliation, kin defense, and kin whatever. People think mate guarding is just between a guy and a girl. No, you know, fathers will, not mate guard, but they will certainly, you know, kin guard their daughters. Brothers will kin guard their sisters. So yeah, you're probably not feeling that without reason, because there's certainly something going on there. But that idea of leagues is something I think inherent in men, because we come from tribal backgrounds, and you weren't of the same tribe as the girl that you were talking to.
And I had no desire to move into that tribe at the time. Okay, let's get to Iron Rule of Tomassi, number 9. And this, you know who the best example of this is? Donald Trump. Never self-deprecate. He never makes fun of himself. Never takes, you know, or self-deprecates himself under any circumstance.
You say very seriously.
You say that it's a kiss of death, that you self-initiate, and it's the antithesis of the prize mentality. It makes you seem like less in her eyes.
Yes. Once you've accepted yourself and presented yourself as a complete douche, there is no going back to confidence with the woman. Well, and I had to add that in there, because that was something that I kept getting from guys who would say, who would call themselves that, actually would literally call themselves, oh, I'm just a complete douche. I don't know why she'd be with me. And you and I talked about this on your program before, how you would have guys that would come in there who are, I guess they were politicians, or they're people who are, you know, at least believably, well, they are believably high status men. And the first thing out of their mouths is, I'm so lucky to have a girl like this. I can't believe a woman would marry a complete douche like me. Right. So they think that that's endearing, and they think that that is in some way a way to get into the good graces of women.
It's insulting to their wife, though. Think about their wife sitting around wherever it is, the country club, and the other women hearing that, oh, you could have done better. And it's like, now she's going to start to go, maybe I could have. You know?
Right. Well, here's what, remember, hypergamy is based on doubt. Is this guy the best I can get? Well, when you say, I'm a complete douche, I can't believe she would ever go out with me, I'm so lucky my bride would deign to, you know, accept my advances, kind of thing. And they think it's funny, and they think that it's endearing, and they think, because this is beta mentality, they think that they are lifting their woman up by bringing themselves down. And you're right, Donald Trump would never do something like that, because he's very much invested in his own ego, which is a good thing, I think, for a president.
Melania is complimentary. She makes him look better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a little beside the point, but like, yeah, I think she knows the role that she has to play, and well, maybe it's not beside the point, because most women want a guy that other men want to be and other women want to have sex with.
There you go.
And if you confirm for her overtly with your words, I am not the best you could do. Oh, she could have done so much. Literally, this is what they say. She could have done so much better than a guy like me. Boy, it must be by the grace of God that I got this perfect girl. Oh gosh, we got kids together too. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You know, it would be better for you to go, yeah, she got lucky with me. You know, be cocky and funny. Stay on top of that stuff. You will never hear me say anything like that with any woman, really. But I learned this really early on too, and I think it was really because I was in a unique position when I was in my 20s, when I was playing junior rock star in Hollywood. Is you had to have that bravado. You had to be really kind of like cocky and full of yourself. You know, we pickup artists say, well, you got to be cocky and funny, and that's a technique. Well, that was a way of life when I was a musician. And it worked, because that was part of the character that women wanted. They don't want a guy who's going to apologize for himself all the time. They want a guy that they can feel good about being associated with, because that brings attention and pushes them up on the hierarchy, the dominance hierarchy of other women, because they got with a guy who handles his shit and knows that he's a high value guy. Now, this also goes with another post I have called The Threat. And the very first part of the threat is that and I would probably make this also a maxim at some point too, but women are both simultaneously threatened and aroused by a guy who is aware of his own sexual market value and expresses that. And a guy who says, yes, I know that I'm the best that she could do. You know, I could probably do a lot better. You know, you didn't have to say something like that, but you could just say, yeah, I know that I'm the best she could do. I'm not like other guys. I am, I'm an elite dude. And to know that, I'm not saying like overtly say those things, but like imply that with your actions, imply that with maybe your words, imply that with everything that you do, particularly when you're in situations where most of the time this is for guys who are already in a relationship, sometimes out. Like, guys think that if they self-deprecate, that it is endearing or that it's funny. Oh, haha, he laughs at himself. I need a guy who can laugh at himself. Well, that's one thing. I'm not saying it's not important to laugh at yourself or to take yourself overly seriously. It's when that is your first internalized mental state to deprecate yourself.
Great line here.
Go ahead.
Great line in the chat from Felix. He says, self-deprecation in front of women makes them drier than the Sahara.
Yes, absolutely. And because, again, they want to be associated with a guy that has high value. And if you are constantly saying, I am low value, why would they be with you? That's, again, it's pragmatism. You don't do stuff like that. And if anything, you need to adopt the mentality that your first thought isn't self-deprecation, but it is self-aggrandizement, and not like, oh, I'm so great. Oh, you don't have to, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know what would be a better thing to think about yourself as, is not just simply like, hey, I'm good. I'm where I'm at. I don't, I'm me. And I'm high value, and I'm not going to reduce myself in front of all these people. And usually this is because you're in a social situation and you want to, like, beta guys want to build their woman up by tearing themselves down. You won't do that. Build yourself up, and you build up the chick that's with you too. And therefore you are both high. You're a high value couple, instead of like, oh, I'm so thankful that that she's lowered herself to be with a guy like me.
All right,
that's what that's for.
let's get to the chat questions.
We got a few. You know what? Sorry guys, I didn't catch all of these things. The way we're gonna work super chats from here on out is I'm gonna, unless they're like, you know, super high, if they're $100 super chats, I'll do them right away. But like if you just want to get something in here, that's fine. But I want to hold them till the end, and we've been doing this also on Redman Group and Redline. Well, actually Redline we don't do it. We actually read them right there. But I want to hold these off because I think it's important to get these points out first. But I do want to take your chats, and I should also add this is that pretty much I would say this is episode number 27. I would say of 27, probably 10 of our episodes are actually monetized because YouTube doesn't like red pill stuff. So if you want to support the show, either do it through Patreon, you could do it through a direct contribution, or you can give us super chats. I'm cool with that as well, because we are not in any way getting any kind of money from YouTube for this. So anyways, and people say, well, you guys got to stop talking, you got to stop swearing, and it's like, no, it's not that. It's because it's because the title of the show is Red Pill 101. So anyways, okay, we got YOLO here who says, hi Rolo, you often use the words emotion and feelings. Do they mean the same thing? And would you please explain play with her and play with her? Okay. Emotion and feelings. Yes, they're pretty much the same thing. I think when I talk about, when you and I talked to Everett Piper, he said he has this idea that, you know, it's always feels before reals right now. And that is evidence, I think, of our gynocentric female primary social order, that we prioritize emotion, we prioritize feelings above any other way of interpreting something that's said to us, some kind of information that comes to us from the outside world. We're supposed to, because it's the correct way to do it, is to interpret it with our emotions before we actually think about it with reasons. So when I talk about emotions and feelings, yeah, emotions are remember, emotions are biological. Emotions come from up here. It's not some magical God-given, you know, holy light from above that I've got to express my emotions. I'm going to paint this masterpiece. Well, maybe that's an emotional expression, but those expressions originate from the way that things are influencing you from the outside world and how you're interpreting those. And that's why we have emotions, because it was one better way of interpreting information that came into our existence.
Let me throw something in with the emotions. I bring a guy on my program, West Point graduate, Jaron Jackson. He's a millennial, right? Did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. He led guys over there. He said, when it comes to millennials and Generation Z, he says they learn with their eyes and they think with their feelings. In other words, if you're a guy and you're a millennial, you're thinking like a chick. You're thinking with your feelings. You're not thinking rationally.
I really want to do an episode where we go into instinct, emotion, and reason. And that was a 4-part series I wrote just last year. And just to give you the briefest way of interpreting this is, like, we have 3 different ways of interpreting information as human beings. Really, higher animals do the same thing, because I'm pretty sure like some higher animals actually have emotions. I'm pretty sure like dolphins or whatever have emotions. But so we think of things in terms of what our instincts are telling us. So if we have like the fight or flight instinct, that's our instinctual processing information. Then fight or flight is an easy one, but we have instincts about sexuality, about self-defense, about certain things that are coming to us, that like if a fly comes and we flinch out of the way, that's instinct. If we hear a loud bang, we're like, oh my God, you know, you flinch when you hear a loud noise, that's instinct. So that's one way of interpreting. That's the autonomous way that human beings interpret information that's coming into their surroundings, okay, into their environment. Then there's the emotional side of things. How does this make me feel? You know, seeing, you know, my child die is going to make me feel certain emotions, because I don't want that to ever happen again, and I need to learn from those feelings. So emotional response is a way of interpreting things that are coming in from our outside world as well. So when we feel love for somebody, or when we feel anger for somebody, or we feel afraid, you know, we're afraid of what's lurking in the dark in the forest, that kind of stuff. Those are ways of interpreting information that has a direct effect on us by making us feel certain things. Like we talk about, and I think the operative here is guys need to understand that that it's biological, because I can make you feel something by stimulating parts of your brain, or I can put oxytocin into your system, or I can put testosterone in your system, and you will be more aggressive. You'll have aggressive emotions because of that. Or I can put oxytocin into your system and make you feel trust and love and all this other stuff. So remember, it's not magical, woo, 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 woo. You know, God said, here, you have this great emotion. It's because you have a chemical response to stimuli that's coming around you. So those make you feel. So that's one way of interpreting things. And then finally, there's reason and there's rationality. There is you stopping and thinking about, how can I use this information? I've seen this before. What happened before? I learned from it. I know now that I have to act this way in order to avoid this situation, or what can I do with this information? And it's a reasonable, usually remember, reason and rationality is slower than emotion and instinct. So you have to have had experiences before to really use your sense of rationality and reason to interpret information, whereas emotion is immediate and instinct is even more immediate than emotion. And so it's prioritizing those things. And I think really naturally women prioritize these processes as instinct, emotion, and reason. And we teach everybody that this is the correct way of doing it. Whereas men are instinct, reason, and then emotion. We interpret what is in our environment. We figure out, what can I do with this? Remember, men are more interested in things. They're more interested in the outside world. They're more interested in what is the possibilities. So we have this developed need for reason. We have, contrary to popular opinion, we have a better internal mapping. We have better spatial abilities. We have better physical abilities than women do. Part of that, of course, is learning these things and using our innate sense of reason. And then we have emotion. And then we decide, okay, well, I have this information. How did it really make me feel? And it's not, I'm not saying that it's not important, or I'm not saying one of those is more important than the other. It's just, this is how we naturally prioritize those things. And so, but what we teach our boys now, just like you were just saying, is we teach them to think about things, to prioritize emotion, and we train them to invert that so that it becomes instinct, emotion, and reason, when it would be instinct, reason, and then emotion. And that we have got at least 2 or 3 generations that we've been doing that for, and the millennial men are probably the worst of that. Then he says, how do you explain play with her and play with her? I just explained that a minute ago. I explained that in Iron Rule number 9. You need to be cocky and funny. You need to play with her. You need to, I explained this in, what was the other one I explained? It was, you need to just get it, really. And that's what I mean when I'd say play with her and play with her. So you're playing with her like amuse mastery, right? You go, you know the game that she's playing with you as if she's a child. But then you are playing along so that you're saying, like, I understand that you're giving me a shit test right now, and I'm going to play the game along with you.
Right.
Because if I don't, or if I explain, oh, you're playing a game with me, and let me tell you why, you wouldn't be this autistic kind of spurgy guy who wants to explain the game to her. Women don't want to have the game explained to them. They want you to play it, because you playing it, and you playing it well, lets them know in a more organic way, he gets it. He's playing this game with me. He wouldn't be playing it with me if he didn't get it. So that's what I mean by that.
They don't want you to tell them all about yourself. They want to figure it out.
No, they want, nothing is more self-satisfying for a woman than to believe that she's figured out a guy based on her mythological feminine intuition. Okay. They want to think that they have some sort of magical capacity to figure out men, and that men will never figure them out, that they're unknowable, and women are unknowable and men are infinitely knowable. And so they want to think like, they like the intrigue. They like the challenge. They like to, a man has to be an onion. You have to pull him apart layer by layer. They love that. They love the aspect and the part of trying to figure out what's going on in this guy's head. And then when they think that they've got that, that is very, very satisfying to a woman. Don't deny yourself that by going, well, you know what you're trying to do. You're trying to unravel me and figure me out. No. Play with it. Go with that. Go along with that. Play with understand. I'm not saying that it's not important to understand all the stuff that I say, or all the stuff that's in my books, but when you apply it, Don't go and read the Rational Male to your girlfriend or your wife. You know, here you go, baby. You know, you're doing this is shit testing, and this is I don't believe in the soulmate myth anymore. Don't go and point that shit out. Don't give them the rule book. Play the game. Play the game better. And then you will actually feel more satisfied by doing that, because you're going along with what it is that she wants to do, instead of, you know, either being frustrated by it because you don't understand the game, or trying to bring it all above board and say, oh, well, you know, this is what you're doing right now, and this is what Rollo said, and this is what evolutionary psychology says, and this is what biology says about you, and, you know, let's just all cut the bullshit. No, play the game. Okay. Last, let's see, who was this? I forget. Zenith says, I'm getting a degree in math finance right now. 80% of people in math are feminists. Yep, they are. Please keep these podcasts going for me. Yeah, keep me, these podcasts keep me sane. Yeah, well, I understand. They keep me sane too. And last but not least, I just got one from Ege, E-G-E. I don't know how to pronounce that. Hi, Rollo. I'd like to ask you if you have any advice for men that are extremely lazy because they have never been taught discipline by their single mothers.
By the rational.
By the rational. Here's my advice. Don't be lazy. Stop being weak and start being awesome. Make that decision for yourself to actually do something, and to actually get off your ass and stop being lazy. The only way, you know, people ask, well, how do I motivate myself? You stop being lazy. You stop. You make a decision. You change your mind about yourself is what you do. A lot of guys think that, particularly with the 21 convention, that it's a lot of like it's like motivational speakers and stuff like that. Okay, but at the basis of everything that they're saying is like, none of that works unless you get up out of bed and you go and do whatever you're going to do. I mean, it becomes worth it to, you know, survival situations make you motivated to do something, and most people don't have that anymore. They don't have, especially in this, you know, modern generation, they don't have that. But stop sucking and start being awesome. That's how you do it.
All right, let's wrap it up. Anything you want to plug real quick?
Let's see. Well, your show. I'm still working on book 4. I'm deep in it right now. I've got a new post that I'm going to be putting out, but I also wanted to take a minute to sort of apologize for not putting out as many posts as I have been. I am really deep in the weeds in book 4 right now. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to post. I have never not posted. I've never taken a sabbatical. I've never, ever since I started the blog in 2011, and I've never taken a hiatus, and I've never taken a sabbatical, and I don't plan to yet. But that doesn't mean that I might go 2 weeks without putting a post out. So I kind of have to apologize for that. But you know me, I write stuff that I craft a post, and so it takes me a while to sort of put something out there, because I want to give high quality. I could post every day. I could easily take something, you know, the next story and drop it out. You know, Hartiste used to do that, right? I mean, it was whatever somebody handed to him, and then he would write a quick post about it. I don't do that. I have to craft a post, and sometimes it takes a while. So I am doing that. I am working on book 4. I will be continuing Red Pill and Religion as a podcast pretty soon. I will be doing an AMA, I think, middle of this week. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's that little button right there. And if you haven't hit the like button, then what's wrong with you? It's really easy. It's really easy to click that little button right there. I need to get likes. We're doing really well with this podcast. I'm very impressed. We just passed 17,000 subs, and we're continuing going. The best thing that you can do to support this show, even if you don't want to, you know, give us any real money, please just copy and paste the link and put it in your Twitter, or put it somewhere that you thought this was. If you think that this is like if you think that this podcast keeps you sane, please go and repeat it somewhere so people will come and check it out. Because that helps not only you, because maybe some new topic comes out of it, but it's helping us as well, so that we keep things going. So please sub, please get the notices, because if you have notices, then you'll be alerted as to when I do Red Pill and Religion and I do my AMA. So, and then of course we will be doing your show on Friday at
8:05 Central.
8:05 Central, 9:05 Eastern. That's always fun. Last week was good. Last Friday I thought was interesting. So yeah, you can find the archives to our shows on the sidebar of The Rational Male. So if you want to hear anything that we've done on Pat's terrestrial radio show, you can go there. And then finally, I am doing the Red Line on Fridays. I don't know if I'm going to do that like permanently, but that is an all call-in show and an all tweet-in show and an all chat-in show. So if you have like questions about, can I get my girlfriend back? Go and wait for that. That's usually on 8:05. It's 8 p.m. on Fridays Eastern. So check that out. And then Red Man Group, of course, is always 11 a.m. on Saturdays. And that's, if you're watching me, you probably already watched that. So,
I am. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for this one. It's been fun. Bye.
It's a wrap.